All right, everybody, it's 6:30, so I will start by calling the meeting to order and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for calling, everybody. We're going to start with a quick review of the meeting minutes from last month. Any questions, guys? Any comments? I read the minutes. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
I have to abstain. I wasn't here for that meeting.
All right. You got that, Peggy? All right, so we're going to start with public comments. Putting Ms. Gaffney here is going to give us a little info about a project at the school first, and then we'll open the floor.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to have a few minutes with you tonight. This is one of the measures we're taking for public outreach. We are hosting a couple of presentations at the school district to share information about the capital project we're putting up for our voters on September 12th. But I just go one step further. Where I'm actually spending some time village board meetings, town board meetings, other events, making sure that the information is out there and that we're garnering support, answering any questions, addressing any concerns that our community members might have. So again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I'm going to keep it very quick, but I wanted to give you a quick drive-by version of what we've got before us as we are embarking on the September 12th voting day. So our capital project, I've got some signage behind me here. This middle one is particularly important because our capital project is really focusing in on three main areas. This is a bare bones project. Three main areas are critical infrastructure, or critical maintenance, end of life issues, safety and security, and energy efficiency is a tiny portion of the project. And I'm going to talk about each one of those key factors that drove the development of this scope in just a moment. But just to give you guys a definition, the critical infrastructure end of life, this means that there are certain parts of our infrastructure that are nearing warranty expiration, or they are deteriorated, broken, or non-working infrastructure. So when I refer to that, that's what I mean. Safety and security is a top priority of our school district, always has been, always will be. Our district is committed to making schools safe and secure, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things we plan to do in this project to make our schools safer for the children and the staff in our community. And then finally, like I mentioned, a tiny portion is going to be devoted to energy efficiency. The last handful of years, we've been exploring transitioning from fluorescent to LED lighting. Actually started it in one capital project to go, and only made it down like one hallway, and then we haven't been able to garner the funds to continue. We've been exploring lots of creative ways to make it happen in the interim. We have not been able to secure all of the resources needed, and we felt that this was a timely decision to incorporate it into the project. Because of the state aid and using some capital reserves would allow us to do this in a very inexpensive way, but yield a significant amount of savings over time. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. So when we develop a capital project, we do so using a number of sources. We use a 5-year building condition survey. As a school district, every public school in New York State has to have their building assessed by architects and engineers every 5 years. They look at every nook and cranny of our building, and then they develop a list of things that need to be taken care of, and they help us prioritize. And of course, our faculty and staff, particularly our building and grounds crew, are instrumental in putting that together. So we use that building condition survey to determine when and how we proceed with capital projects. Next, we use the feedback from our crew, particularly our building and grounds crew, but our teachers also know their space. They also are involved in sharing feedback. And then of course, our architects and engineers who not only participate every 5 years, but they're in our building all the time assisting us. So those are the different data sources we use to develop a project. And we're at the point, in fact, we are a very conservative district, and Mr. Altieri will attest to that. But we sometimes get to the point where we recognize that the amount of major critical infrastructure issues we have and safety and security priorities we have get to the point where we need to take care of them in the next few years, and it would be more expensive to do so out of pocket as opposed to going to a project and being able to leverage the almost 80% state aid that we are eligible for. Not only that, but our school district over the last 10 or 15 years has been incredibly smart, and they have practiced sound fiscal practices and have put a great deal of money away in our capital reserve fund, so that we're able to use just some of that for this project, leaving quite a bit of it behind for a potential future capital project down the line. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. We are looking at a total referendum amount of 3.5 million. In the grand scheme of capital projects, that is very, very, very small for a school district. 2.5 million does not get you very much anymore, but it will allow us to address those three areas in a suitable way that will work for us. So at 3.5 million, we plan to use $500,000 from our capital reserve fund. And then our estimated building aid will come in to the tune of 2.8 million, leaving a balance of just $214,000 that will need to be bonded. And over 15 years, that's $14,267 a year. And that's what we're really looking for the taxpayers to support. Worthy of note, we just had a debt payment or debt come off, and that debt was higher than this debt that will be coming on. The levy is actually going to be decreasing, and it's incredibly important to note for this particular capital project, there will be no increase in the levy at all. Like I said, it's actually going to be decreasing because the debt coming off is less than the debt coming on is less than the debt that just went on. Just to break it down a little bit more for you, and you can look at some pictures and you can look at the bullet points. And I also have newsletters that if you're good with that, I'll leave over on a table if people I didn't get them in the mail and you'd like to learn more about it. It really breaks out like what it is we're looking to do under those three categories of critical maintenance, safety and security, and energy efficiency. But just to give you just a couple of just quick tidbits about the critical infrastructure. We've had a couple of pretty significant storms here in Sackets Harbor this summer. One was in July. What date was that, Lynn? You probably remember like it was yesterday.
Oh, that's a good question. Middle of July.
Middle of July. We all got that. That overwhelmed our drainage system. Our drainage, has been outdated and needs attention, desperate attention. Our drainage system could not handle the amount of water that came in that short duration of time, and as a result, our basement, we had a storm drain pipe burst. And we also had water coming in our ramp of the basement. So we had about knee-deep water in the basement. And this was the second time that has happened in the last 5 years. So this project will address the drainage, which is desperately needed. It will also address the leaking windows. It's going to address the roof. A portion of our roof is the warranty is expiring, so that will, it was not touched in the last capital project, but will need attention in this capital project. We have a couple of areas in our building, high traffic areas that need new flooring. Our NPR stage, that carpet is very, very old and it's all dripping at the edges, as is our library carpet. So those are the only flooring areas we're looking to touch. We only have a few sets of old lockers left in this school building. And we are looking to update those because some of them are unusable, and actually some of them are unsafe. They're coming out from the wall and creating safety issues for our kiddos and the other people who travel through our hallway. We're looking at updating some gym air handlers to provide efficient airflow in the gym. That too is beyond its useful life in the last capital project, so we really need to prioritize that. I know Ms. Milton will attest to this, but the plumbing infrastructure in our 1992 primary wing is horrible. Their original 1992. They are in need of replacement. Water coolers throughout our entire building are broken. Some are beyond repair, need replacement. And of course, during COVID, we had to shut them down so our kids didn't have ready access to water. And so we're looking at replacing them with the bottle fillers for our students. Piping is so old in our building that it is eroding, leaking, and no longer functional. Some of the areas of our building, the electrical panels needs to be updated. Our security system as well. We finally are at a point in our school district that we have great coverage with our CCTV system. However, we started it about 17 years ago, and we've slowly increased over the years. So some of the cameras that we have in our building are almost 20 years old, and they just are not compatible with software. So we have to start moving some of the old stuff out. And of course, we'll leave the newer stuff in there. Our bus garage we've got a couple of areas in need of attention there. The flooring in that space and our bus lift is also in need of repair. We get that inspected every year, and the inspector said, last time I'm gonna give you approval, it's still safe, you're good to go, but this needs to be a priority. And again, that's why one of the reasons we're taking on this project. Then finally, critical infrastructure, to our gym. We have a beautiful gym, but we have a gym divider door that's in excess of 20 years old. And the snow from the roof presses down on that gym divider. And it is falling into disrepair. And so we've been counseled that the next time it breaks, the parts, the pieces needed to fix it no longer exist. So if it breaks in an open position or breaks in a closed position, it's a very good chance that we will not be able to get it open or closed unless we remove it anyway. So that's kind of where we are with our gym divider. Moving on to safety and security. We have a beautiful playground, but that playground is over 15 years old. And if you have kids that play on the playground, you'll often see that parts of it are roped off because it's parts are breaking. It's just wear and tear. This playground is not just used during the school year, which it is very, very consistently. But it is used by our community, it's used by tourists, and it is used hard. And so it is not safe for our kids to be playing on broken playground equipment, and it is in need of repair. And we can't wait for the whole community, our PTO and community to fundraise because we prioritize it as a safety issue. We're also adding fencing around our playground that will help tame our little ones that like to run. We are looking to, we have some hot water issues in our school district. We're looking to address this project to make sure that teachers and kids can wash their hands with hot water. We have not had some hot water in quite some time. And finally, if you've ever been into our school building, we are always locked down. You have to buzz to get in, but once you get into our main entrance, you are supposed to report directly to the main office. And it's a safety and security measure. However, if you were entered the building with ill intent, go downstairs to the basement and have 3 access points anywhere in the building you'd like to go. If you didn't want to stop in the main office, you could go right up to the 2nd floor without stopping. So we do not have a secure vestibule, and we have had some audits in the last couple of years because of school safety concerns. And one of the audits did make the recommendation that we need to consider a secure vestibule to increase safety in our school building. And that's what we're doing with this project. We're actually looking at moving the main entrance from where it is currently down to the next set of doors, which is down towards the elementary. There's already built-in secure, the capability for a secure vestibule. And then we're just going to add a window for someone to be welcoming them in and taking care of business without necessarily letting everybody inside of the building. And then finally, as I mentioned, the energy efficiency piece, the transition LED lighting, that is expected to yield a savings of between $11,000 and $12,000 per year moving forward. So the cost of this project, especially naval project, it makes perfect sense to incorporate it here to yield a great amount of savings over time. So with that, I just want to, I think my next part is just talking to you a little bit about the schedule. So I'm here tonight. I'm also going to be visiting the town board tomorrow. We have one last community presentation on August 29th in our gymnasium. Everyone is welcome. It will be much more in depth and not as strictly. I will speak as strictly. The day of the vote is September 12th. It's in our the lobby of the Hudeman Gymnasium. And pending approval, and we are hoping for approval, we will then submit the project to the state for approval in December. We are at the complete mercy of the state. We'll often get behind in their in the approval process, but if everything goes just how we want it to go, which it doesn't usually, but if it did, we would be ready to go out to bid in the spring and be able to break ground and do the stuff we have to do in the summer of 2025. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me speak. I'm going to leave the newsletters on the table. I also will invite you to our new website, www.sackpatriots.org. And on that site, there's an abundance of information about the project, and everything you need to know is right on there. Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Jim, real quick before you go, thank you for that. It was a great breakdown, great rundown. Just so I can help spread the communication with you, for you. I understand 80% will be taken care of through the state, 10% from the Strategic Reserve Capital Fund. So when we vote on the 12th, what are we voting for? Just to allocate the $14,000 per year per bond, or?
You are simply voting to approve the district moving forward in the process with that breakdown. You're approving that whole.
Okay,
You're approving us to utilize the aid. You're approving us to take 50,000 or I'm sorry, $500,000.
yeah.
And you are approving that third component, which is the financing of the remaining portion.
the bond, okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions, guys? Cool. Thanks very much, Jen.
All right, thank you.
Right, so we're gonna have a public comment at the beginning and we do want to, again, at the end. I know some people are here to talk about, some property on Dodge. I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to jump in now or wait, because we are going to discuss it halfway through. But I'll open the floor for public comments, and we are going to hold everyone to that 3 minutes because we got a lot of people here today. Anybody want to speak up now? All right, we'll move on to our treasurer report, which will be brief because we are fixed treasurers at the moment.
Actually have a report. We're just paying.
Well, we have, yeah, we're just paying, we have the printout here, but it's just the balance. There's nothing really to it, so I'm not gonna go through and vote on it because we don't have anything to vote on. We did look at the bills,
I'll make a motion to pay the bills with the exception of the bill for Rudd's. That one does not fit our employee
Handbook.
handbook.
I'd let Shannon know about that. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain. I didn't look at them.
She's just got here, so she's abstaining. We can talk to Lynn about that after. All right, so we will jump into department reports. Lynn, you're up, sir.
You have my report there in front of you. I'm gonna make it short and sweet. Did get an estimate for the roofing on top here from Lake Roofing Solution. Lee Peggy said she made some copies of it.
Yep.
They can do it quite reasonable. I wasn't here during that massive rainstorm, but I did get some pictures that it was flooding pretty good in the fire hall there. Something has to be done. At 34,000, I think it's a pretty good place to start.
Well, it beats the 500,000 BCA came in at,
Just gave us an estimate. He
So-
didn't quote it.
typical.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad you did that.
I just have a couple of questions about, are we required to remove or do testing? Like, do we, because this one is just putting,
As long as you don't disturb it for asbestos. You don't
do
have-
we know how many layers are up there now? I mean, the roof is 50 years old, so I don't know.
That's something that AJ said he looked at when he was up there Monday. I had a local guy who does commercial roofing. Mike helped him get up. And he's gonna have a quote for us as well in a couple days.
Okay.
So he said something about the layers and he.
I'm just curious to know. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully if there's a limit to the number of layers you could do, and then if we do have to take it apart, then we ensure that
Yes.
that's this question. So.
Yep.
Hopefully we will not have to deal with that.
I mean, I like the price better.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're doing it right. though.
And just to be clear, and I see it on here, but it's for the entire roof. It's just not for the patches and the holes in the fire.
Did you call reference?
Taking out the skylights.
I'm sorry, did you call like references? Because it's so much less, I'm just curious. Did you call?
Have not.
And we can do that before we decide.
We still need
We'll get
three quotes
another
too,
quote or
right?
two. And then,
We still have 2 more quotes.
all right. How's the Arcata stuff going? You guys getting in?
Good, we're moving along. They're on schedule to come back, I think, 4 or 5 more times to hopefully pick up the spots we haven't gotten yet. And the people that we're unable to get into, residents we're unable to get into, but it's moving along.
Great.
I think we're gonna meet the October 16th deadline.
Is there a hard number of like percent that we need to have data from, guys?
So, if you don't know them now, you can just put not available. But I do believe, I think it's by 2026, they state you need to know all services what they are. They want it this first round, but if you don't, they know that it's a lot of work for municipalities. So they do factor a few years in there, so you take.
Okay. Any other questions for Lynn, guys?
So it looks great.
Village looks great. Trail behind my house looks great. Villain, tell the guys thank you.
Take it.
The village looks great. The trail behind my house looks great. Tell the guys, thank you.
Thanks. John, you're up.
And doing the dock check. That was the utility for the, probably that, I think it was the last one, where someone actually left the boat there, off their tag. It's notice, one thing I wanted to ask, are we gonna get different, like, sticker letter? You actually coming from the water side and the side?
It's hard to read.
Yeah, there's two, right?
Yeah, we can get bigger, yeah.
Yeah, because like, I did it the other day on a personal boat, just to get my grasp of what people are looking at. First I was just looking for a line, and then unless you like go right up to them, look at them, really, have no idea.
I'll talk, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I was just looking for something like more obvious. Because the people that I didn't speak to, that left and didn't stay all night, they said the same thing. They didn't really. Other than that, does anybody have any questions?
You get the damaged car back. Are you guys good?
What's that?
Car that was damaged by
Oh,
the.
yeah, yeah, we have that.
Okay. Good. Good.
Any other questions for John? Thanks. Kelly, you can do the fire department during your thing, you're gonna do now. And move on to the heritage area. Dave?
Yeah, you should have my report. Well, it's been July was a busy month for this past. The consolidated funding application grant was submitted at the end of July. That was for basically pretty similar plan as past for trails around the north parcel of the LDC. I've been also working on, this is the pro housing certification for the village. The mayor's talked about it before. Months ago, you passed the resolution, but they also require a lot of data about housing permits that have been approved in the last 5 years, summaries of various portions of the zoning law. So I've got all that together. That's ready to submit.
You're just waiting on me to get you in there, right? To procure them? Okay.
Yeah, I guess getting, the New York Forward was announced. That's the grant for the downtown revitalization. I've been talking with business people downtown to see if there's interest. That's due October 18th. So I've been working on that as well. Tied in with the CFA grant. There was a Boy Scout that gave a year for a meeting. I've been working with him. He wants to do an Eagle Scout project,
Right.
trailheads, and like to put it over on the LDC property. So that's what that map is. That's what the site plan. And so he's working on that. And been working on the last of the signs for Market Square Park, some of the parking signs, sort of park layout sign, and we're way under budget so far. So we'll be probably doing additional signs that John mentioned. Pickering Beach Museum has been, the attendance has been a lot more than last year. I think that's partly due to had some good events in July, Can-Am, Grand Tactical. So the attendance at the Pickering Beach Museum is way up. So that's about all I have.
Great. Any questions for Dave, guys? On to Kathy.
Thanks, Dave.
The visitor center had 922 people in July come business, which is almost 200 more than we had at the same time last year. So definitely our numbers are up. We have a lot more Canadians this year coming as well, which is nice to see that sort of rebounding. Unless you have any other questions.
Okay. Do we have anything for Kathy? Here.
She's here.
Oh, there she is. Hi. Janet?
Following the written information I gave you to this meeting last month. Two new things coming up this next week.
Ready? All right, thanks, Janet. So all
Finally,
right, guys, we'll get you out of here in time for your pickup.
So we had one payment from Lawman for pay app request for 56,000 for phase two. Just to give you an idea, there's about 503,000 out to pay for Lawman for both contracts. That's remaining. I imagine that most of it will be this month after Lawman. So they're working their way up Hamilton Street Hill.
What amount of that is the holdback?
So there's 5% retention right now on phase two. Phase one is, I think there's 2%, maybe like 60 grand.
Okay.
So Lawman's working their way up at Hamilton Street. They submitted a request for time extension because one, the rain they were making their way up and the rainstorm on Friday kind of washed a bunch out. We had some issues where the washout kind of went onto the Tucson's property, so we're working to address that, fix that, get all the stone off their property. Another thing that they submitted in their time extension request is they had their superintendent passed away unexpectedly about a month and a half ago, so that counts for a little bit too. He kind of ran the show with all the projects.
how long we looking?
So it went from September 1st to October 1st.
30 days?
30 days. That's what they're requesting.
Hold on. It also require you guys to have someone there to kind of oversee it, right?
Yes.
Who pays for that?
I think our budget is looking well because the intake project, we're spending majority of the time, is just coming over, checking a few things here and there, not spending much time at all. So from forecasting, I think it's not going to affect our number for inspection remaining for this year.
So no additional charges for the extension in time requested by Lawman. Right?
No additional charges from them, and we're not expecting any for our inspection down there.
And no additional charges from you guys to us for having somebody down there because it's cost another 30 days.
Correct.
Okay.
Additional charges.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was asking.
Yeah, this is strictly time extension.
Yep. No, but more time equals someone
Yeah,
else being
more
down there.
overtime.
Yeah, that's all. I'm making sure. Yep, okay, fair enough.
And for the Brown Shores project, so we reviewed their submittals. We've talked with Powis. They also submitted a time extension request because the pump skids and the enclosure are long lead time items. Those wouldn't be in until October 1st. So that is, they're requesting till November 15th, so about a month and a half.
That wouldn't change your inspection either because you're not there now, so you're just moving it forward.
Along the same lines as I think the intake project is simply going on as well. So we'll have somebody kind of floating between the two projects.
I didn't know if we talked about last time when we closed it out completely, but Market Square Park Phase 1, that's all done, right? All the punch list is closed. There's nothing left to be done.
One item, they have to align the west to the left side dock. It's still kind of at an angle. They're waiting to do, when they float the Hamilton Street dock over, when they have a boat in the water, they'll realign that at the same time they do it.
There's just one thing left.
That's
Okay.
Water intake project, I got our notes there, but we had our progress meeting last week. I'm sure everyone knows the drill's out there, some noise down there, but they did the pilot hole, which is 12-inch pilot hole, and then they're reaming it out with a 30-inch hole. They're about 40 feet out. That should resume back tomorrow is what we're hearing. They kind of cut out from the rain event last week, Friday, and then some of the wind. They haven't worked the last 3 days, but if all goes well, what they had stated at the progress meeting on August 7th, it'd be 10 more working days. So if they can get 10 straight working days, they should be complete with the drill. And then it'd be the flow and sink of the pipe out in the lake.
The backhoe was they put it in reverse today. I'm like looking around, like, where is that beeping coming from? It's the backup beep out on the water. Took me a minute to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's still on track for November then?
Yeah.
Still on track for November to cut it over?
Yeah, they were still out there. Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping we can get it. Lynn and I were chatting about this, this is the year that we would pig the line, so if it's turned over in time, or if it's close enough that we can ask, DOH for a time extension, we can possibly skip doing that this year, which is nice.
So keep the current one operational and then cut it over next year?
Oh, no, we wouldn't have to pig the line. We would skip pigging the old line because we're gonna decommission.
I got you, I
So
got
just
you.
one last maintenance
No
task.
picking it, keep using it and then cut it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me updates and anything else unless there's any questions.
So for both of those time extensions, you need a vote, right?
Just really need a signature, but if you want to put a vote, it's up to you.
I mean, I'm good to sign them if you guys are just.
No additional cost for the village, right? For any of it.
Cost from the contractor and there's not gonna be cost.
Okay, that's all I care about. I make a motion to accept the time extension.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The project extension.
Time extension.
For both. So it's October 1 for Hamilton and November 15 for Powis. All right. You're up. Do you have anybody to introduce to us?
Do. Johnny Crosby is here because our new technical clerk. I think you met most of the board members in here. It's going to do a great job. I did want to say one other thing. I wanted to extend our thanks to Jim Mason. Great job for the board. She has a fun job. And yesterday was her 5th anniversary of working for the group. And she continued last night after finishing her new job. She did the skills last night for us. So she was enjoying working with me.
Thank you, Peggy.
Any questions for the clerk's office, guys? All right, move on to community organizations. Yes.
I think I had a little more like. I think. Introduced here this evening. Support. The period I met with my young colleague and that were 2 weeks ago. Mike purchased with a partner, purchased with property known as Ledger subdivision or Lasers, people say, and want to pursue the development of that subdivision off money side. And Dave and I spoke to them about the previous subdivision approval, and it appears that still is in good standing with DEC, but to review their originally approved engineering drawings, infrastructure, it's a village owned paper street and drainage area. So it involves village property. And they would like to see if we need some direction from the village board on what's desired. But I'm working on it. So I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
You're good, you're good. Do you guys want to give us a quick, couple minutes on the project and then, if we have any questions, we can.
Matt Moore, just kind of curious. Pull some visuals out quick. Harbor Haven subdivision is what was referred to back in 2003. This is depicting the full build out. She mentioned Sunnyside Drive. Back in 2003, this was Mercedes Lane. Monroe Street here, of course, Dodge Ave across the front. Sackets Meadow subdivision is just off the page, down to the bottom. So what you're seeing in tan is the original subdivision that was proposed. The tan would be each house on each lot. It was proposed in 6 phases in 2003. Phase 1, phase 2 was, and phase 3. This batch here. The subdivision stopped after those phases. Several of these lots laid undeveloped for a while. I believe recently, you can see in the background, there's a single house underneath these two. There's a unfinished basement here. This aerial depicts an unfinished basement here, but I believe that one is removed now. And what Janet referred to was the paper street, which was Bianca Lane and Bridget Lane. These 2 streets and the stormwater management area in the middle. So those ended up in the village's hands in around 2007-ish. Remaining phases 4, 5, and 6 are incomplete. They passed through ownership, and just recently Mike Yankovic and his partners purchased that remaining portion of the subdivision. And that's where we're at now with bringing it up. We met with the planning board a couple of weeks ago and expressing the desire to continue with the subdivision and get it completed. When these subdivisions take place in the village, at least the ones passed, they've come with an infrastructure agreement, which is an agreement between the developer and the village as far as if we build these utilities, you will take it kind of thing. There's some bonding and other items involved with that. And that's the stage that we're at now to get that infrastructure agreement in place to be able to move forward with this street reconstruction or street construction, water, sewer, and there's a little bit of storm infrastructure there as well. So once those are built, they'd be turned over to the village for operation. Janet mentioned those DEC, she said, it's DEC for sewer, DOH for water, and DOH also approves the subdivision. They approved the subdivision back in 2003 in its entirety. There was a PDD established for this subdivision, which lays out the stuff that I just kind of mentioned already. I think that was passed on possibly to the village board. I'm not sure if it was left with you when you were here that day or not. I did touch base with the health department. They agreed. All those approvals still seem to be in place. I've got to get a formal letter out to them and they'll get a formal response back to the village on that topic.
How many houses we're looking at?
There are 16 in phases 4 through 6. The green illustrates those areas that still yet to be built that are part of that phase 4 through 6 portion.
The one on the right of the top is white. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Apologies. So I think we're just needing to hash out the infrastructure agreement, right? That's the main tab that is still pending.
Correct. That's something that would have to get hashed out. In our understanding, it's something completely new to this village board. I believe Janet possibly might be the only one involved in some of the prior past subdivisions. So
yeah, some of us worked through the reauthorizing of the Lakeview infrastructure agreement, but it was mostly done. We just had to review it again.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I like the project. I think generally we just need to see, obviously, in order to take over the infrastructure, it has to be spec. That's something that either you go through the Department of Health and DEC, and then for roads, Lynn, do you help with that or do we usually use engineers? For specs?
Yeah.
Those items were part of the original approval, so this road
Was
standard.
there original infrastructure agreement done or no? That we never
Four
got that far?
phases, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Yes, and the way the PDD reads, it's another infrastructure agreement we sign for each phase.
Right.
As it goes through.
Are you guys doing those in 3 phases or just one big phase?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
But yeah, it kind of probably to stick with the 4, 5, and 6, or 6 could actually go first as well, depending on the order.
Sure.
5 is dependent on 4, so. It's the legal review of the infrastructure agreement essentially is the next step in the process.
You guys have a infrastructure agreement sketched out or are you gonna use the original one as a template?
Depending on the village's attorney of what type of agreement you've used recently.
Janet found a draft. One of the earlier infrastructure, never found it. Finalized, like a draft.
The next steps, infrastructure agreement. Probably review or. Janet, was that, it's already run through you guys. You guys have approved it, right?
They haven't approved the infrastructure agreement. That's on us.
They just approved
So-
the actual development.
Yeah.
The PDD.
So, Shannon, one thing that was correct about us not having done this, I don't think any of us were on the board when the infrastructure agreement was drafted for any projects. Does generally the first draft come from the developers or from the village?
I think in Lakeview, they.
Okay.
That poses a question. You, do you want to give it to a board attorney? Or this like board attorney, and I have no idea where it's what for a reason like that. They work with us on Lakeview. Yeah, Jim has done that. So, that's important.
Maybe he has a codified process. That's what I'm looking for, is that codified process for this whole thing. Right?
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Any questions for them, guys? All right, I didn't see any hands earlier for community orgs, but I'll ask it again. In case I missed somebody. I don't have Zoom on my laptop, so Johnny, if anybody's on there, just make sure if you see any messages or anything that no one's unmuted. All right, so we will move on to board reports. I'll start with mine. One quick thing, guys, I did get a message from Shannon. The budget transfers were in the bills, but we do need a separate vote for them.
Okay,
even
I
though they
thought
were inside the bill.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, I believe is why we have some special guests here. We've got, I know it's down in the correspondence as well, some messages from our CEO, Jim Corbin, regarding essentially the efficacy of his issuing tickets and or notices. We have, in the case of KJ over on Dodge, he was issued a ticket, fined, has not paid the fine. Briefly did improve the space, so we were hoping that was a sign he would continue doing that, but it has gotten worse in the last, I would say, a couple weeks. I
Well,
don't
I
pay a
would
ton
say
of
that-
attention to it. But I had a conversation with Jim Burrows today about next steps, and essentially right now, we can't just take the unpaid fine and stick it on his taxes. That takes another legal action, which will cost us some number of thousands of dollars, probably around 2 again. Jim's advice was to continue issuing tickets and let KJ know the full extent of the plan or plan of action would be. It doesn't make sense to go through a $2,000 Supreme Court hearing to issue a judgment that allows us to put it on his taxes or send the DPW to clean it up and put that on his taxes. Instead, it would make more sense to continue issuing tickets every 2, 4, whatever number of weeks we decide. And let him know that once that fee amount has reached 5,000 or $10,000, then we will go through that process. So that it's a meaningful amount of money, rather than us spend $3,000 to cost him $250 and play a game of chicken with us spending 10 times the money we're getting back, even if we are successful every time. I think that's a reasonable plan. I don't think the other options that Jim laid out, which are basically do the same thing, but every time we issue a ticket, spend thousands of dollars each time, makes sense. I'm open to other ideas.
What was the part you were talking about, maybe putting a lien on it?
So that's that, if we do a hearing with the Supreme Court that basically allows us to take a fine and make it a lien, or really it goes on his taxes, and then if it's unpaid, it becomes a lien.
Yes,
But doing that now for a $250 bill,
right.
it will likely just mean he pays it when he pays his taxes and he continues to ignore us.
But I think he owes more than $250. It was,
That's the question.
yeah, I think the way that court finding read was that he was fined so many dollars, whatever it was, per day. And then when he did what we asked him to do, then we stopped fining him. But the problem is, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, or who adjudicates
Who
what?
adjudicated the amount, and the fact that he, like, I don't know where it ended. Like, was it?
I'm not
It
sure
was a
because
good, I want
that's
to
not
say it was like
through-
$150 per, it was a pretty good amount per day.
That's not issued through us, that's issued through the town judge.
Yeah, I
So-
think it was like $360 something, the original judgment, and then it was supposed to be compiled. I think weekly Jim was supposed to submit something to the court, and it was just
Right.
gonna
John,
keep
you get-
getting
you get
added
stuck in the
up
ceiling, or?
He's out, he's
each
in the
week.
truck.
Yeah,
Surprise
so
everybody.
I think every week that it was not cleaned up, it was supposed to add on that same judgment amount.
So we
And
can
that was-
check in with the
and that was
town
like-
and
That was like almost a year ago, wasn't it?
It was a year ago. It'll be a year in September. John, my only concern about giving tickets weekly is we have a problem tracking this guy down. Right? Isn't it always a problem when we're trying to give him a ticket?
Yeah, that's
He ran from
affirmative.
you the
Even-
last 2 times we did this.
Right, and even when it's not for issuing a ticket, if it's just a check on him, he still will like hide in his attic for a week to avoid that.
Right, I just can foresee it being a problem. Like, if we're gonna try to give him a ticket every week, he's
well,
gonna
if
spend all of his hours
if it's
chasing
written
the guy
such
down.
that there is a fine every week until he's compliant, then we don't have to. But let's do this. Let's check in with the town to see what the amount due is and when that stops ticking, if they're checking on it regularly or not. Or if Jim has to certify maybe that hasn't been fixed each week, or how that's managed. And then we can decide at what point it makes sense to move forward to get us the authorization to put it on his taxes and or remove the offending material ourselves. And then, like, yeah, Kelly mentioned, if we do that, obviously it will kind of require a,
It's gonna need police presence. What, if I'm not sending the DPW crew without a police officer there, because I don't trust him.
no, I understand, and he's,
So my next question is, Jim also mentioned this same situation with Gibbons. So once we find out the answer to how to handle KJ, or is Gibbons a different, like, he is not
Gibbons-
paying either.
yeah, so Jim thought he did pay his fine, but he has not yet gone through the planning board process. He's just continued to ignore that. So the question is, the one thing Jim said is there's no urgency on enforcing anything with Gibson. We can do it in a year, we can do it in a month, we can do it now. The question is, do we want to, he added on to the house. And so because he didn't go through the planning board, there is no building permit, there's no county approval. So.
Well, it's not like we would make him tear it down, right? So what do we
I mean,
do at this point? It's already
We
up.
actually could, I don't think we would.
I mean, it's already up. I don't want to do that, but what can we do to rectify it? If he didn't fill out I mean, can he just, I mean, if he
It's a
paid the fine,
Similar situation of either it was a one-time fine or not, but our next step is the same. In order for us to be able to do anything further, we have to go through the Supreme Court in order to put a lien on the property and say, it's a X fine per month until you fix it.
so we don't know if he paid or didn't.
Jim thought he did.
In
again,
the letter that he originally sent us, he said he hadn't.
yes,
In both cases, they were found guilty. Gibson admitted guilt, but have not paid the fine or taken any steps to be compliant. That's what he told us
Yeah, that
in
was.
the August second letter. So unless
And then
he's
he
paid the
said he
fine
thought they
since
might
then-
have paid it, but I didn't. It was a brief phone call like at 3 o'clock today.
So that would be the first thing is to, and it, my feeling is if he paid the fine, be done with it, because what are we gonna do? Make him, I don't know.
Well,
Are we gonna make him tear it
yeah,
down?
the issue there is then it becomes a question of like the planning board, if somebody just ignores them and gets the bill done without a stop work order,
I think
they
it's
could just pay
shitty.
a fine instead of going through the process, which is obviously not the intent of the.
I think it's horrible what he did. I don't agree with it at all.
I do think most people will be deterred by going to court in the
I
first
would
place,
hope
even
so.
though like. So it becomes only a loophole for stubborn people, but again, those are the people that we end up having to fight on this stuff, so hopefully.
What is the planning board's position on, what is the planning board, what would they like Gibson to do to rectify it?
The meeting, plan, and I think he knows that. Too, but I think he would like to go away. As I think I said, it's only it's like if he feels it's a. And like, hey, I will go sit down, I'll go. And here, I talk to the, or go to the, and then he says,
Okay,
I don't know. I am not offered that, it's not
right.
but, you know, I think.
Well, that's what I didn't know. If he just filled out the paperwork, would it go away at that point? That's kind of what I was wondering.
It's fine with materials, blah, blah, blah. It's just. Didn't.
Be stubborn about the process.
Right.
But, you know,
And if we let him get away with it, then other.
Have we sent him notification with the application to say that this will be rectified if you just fill this out and submit the fee that goes with it? Because maybe that would be a good solution. Send him the letter with the application. Yes, to solve this situation. I mean, that would be my recommendation. Maybe just let him know, this will go away if you just fill this out, kind of thing. Okay.
I don't know where that would come from.
Not to interrupt, but they told him that at the court trial too.
I'm just thinking, let's try it again in the mail, send it to him, return receipt, send it, maybe Peggy can send it from the office with a letter signed by Alex that just says, you know, we'd like to put this behind us, if you could just fill out the form.
Yep.
I'd like it to go, if that's all we're asking for, let's just do it and get it done.
Anything else on that topic, guys?
So just to clarify, everything as it is would be approved if he had submitted the proper paperwork and payment?
I can't say sure, but I feel like.
It was like,
it would be,
okay.
yeah. Change things, but it's just like. Yeah, I can't imagine it being any.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Good plan.
Alright, next up on my list, is our treasurer situation. So there's two people involved here now. Well, three. Shannon, has graciously moonlit for us, and that's coming to an end next week after payroll. Her new job has been getting more demanding, and she was here until 10 o'clock doing the bills and budget transfers for us. Legally, there was no way for anyone else to do payroll until we had meeting minutes that have the board approving an appointment of a new treasurer to bring to the bank so they can update our signature cards. I sent you all kind of a loose plan about Dennis Delaney coming on and Jim Uhas backfilling sort of as more of an oversight on the capital projects, and Dennis handling things like the vouchers, the budget transfers, and the payroll. He is only available part-time until January 1st. He's currently about 2 months into training and running payroll for the town, who uses, the same software we do. I've talked to him. He's interested. The town would be able to employ him at something like 32 to 35 hours a week. So that he can get health insurance through them, and then we would have an MOU with them to pay half the cost of his salary and health insurance. Right now, he won't be that full amount, because he's still working 3 days a week and obtaining health insurance through his firm in Syracuse, till January 1st. And once we authorize, really, it's an interim appointment, so I could appoint him, but because it's such a complicated situation, I thought it really didn't make sense to do without running by everyone in case there are concerns. Once that's done, we can have a conversation with him. He said he would ask his Syracuse firm if he could go down to 1 or 2 days a week, and he thinks they'll be flexible with him because they like him. We may get a little more out of him, but I think if we can limp through January, at which point, we'll begin our budget process. He'll have a familiarity with both the village and the town, which will be helpful for things like the fire department, where we're always bouncing around, and he'll know from both municipalities a little bit more of the full story and have more time to be able to come in and relieve Jim Uhas of his additional work as well. It will be cheaper in the interim because we're not paying a full salary. We'll be paying Jim for an hourly rate above his normal consulting, which is a certain number of hours. Basically,
He said he would do it within, did that change?
any additional, like if he has to do things that he has not been doing for Shannon, he'd like some additional compensation, which I think is fine.
Yep.
And then Dennis will be at an hourly rate as well. So we will actually come in under budget.
I think even after January, it'll be under because we're sharing that with the town. So it's a
It should
shared.
be, but we may, depending on how much these guys are able to handle processing bills without the help of someone in the office. We may need to look at bringing on a deputy treasurer, so that savings may go away, but we'll know more February, March time, once he's done with the other firm in Syracuse and has had time to spin up here. So as long as no one has a problem with that, I would like to appoint Dennis as the treasurer and take meeting minutes when Peggy is done with them over to the bank so that we have someone in place to do payroll. And then I will iron out the specifics with Dennis once I have y'all's okay to do that.
I just want to make sure the bills and payroll are covered and that.
The other option is we
Any
try to
issue?
hire someone.
Okay.
Yeah, we post a job posting. There isn't a great other option. We could maybe get Jim to do 1 or 2 payrolls, which would give us 2 to 4 weeks. But I think it would be tough to find someone qualified quickly. And this is a good fix for even if this doesn't work for a long term, it solves the short term issue. It's not expensive. Jim Uhas is going to still be overseeing the capital projects where the real risk of trouble is. Payroll, we'll know right away if the guy's payroll's not right because someone will tell us. So I think there's not a lot of downside to this plan, and potentially it could be a good shared services model if it works.
That consultant fee that Jim is charging us, I assume that will continue, but now he'll be consulting him, Dennis, instead?
Yeah.
Where
so
we
he'd
get
be
eliminating that.
Spending that time
It's
as the, yeah.
Okay.
Or basically, what Jim said is he'll offset, so if he's training Dennis, that will go against that time, and then if he's doing additional work, he'll just keep track of it for us. And Jim's, pretty
He's always pretty
fastidious.
generous. I just want to make sure that everything's paid and on time and as long as that happens, yeah.
I don't have any issues with it.
We need to vote on it or
I
no?
don't think we do. Do you want to vote?
We need a vote for the minutes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, fine.
What is this list?
It's Delaney. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's either Delaney or Delaney.
Connie, are you good with numbers?
No,
Can you do it? Can you do our accounting for us?
You're putting him on the spot.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Jeez. It's okay, just say no. You'll figure him out sooner or later.
You're 1 minute early for screwing around. It's only 7:29.
I'll ask you in a minute.
All right. So I will make a motion to appoint Dennis Delaney as let's name it interim treasurer.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Now we got
Yeah, wait, real quick, I'm sorry. MOU
Four more
with
things.
the MOU with the town. Who's gonna write that and when we get Jim, or,
So I can, I mean, we.
Would that MOU not happen until January?
It will change in January. It will happen right away unless we decide to hire him part-time. It will either happen or we will have to hire him part-time.
Okay, so you have to
The
work.
mechanism to pay him is up to the town board as well, so we won't know necessarily if they want us in the short term to just pay him directly, that's fine, because he doesn't need health insurance until January.
Okay,
Once that happens, though, one of the two of us will need to hire him with enough hours to put him on health insurance, and because of the way the Teamsters.
I was gonna
set up
say he
here,
needs to be on
it's
theirs
easier for them
because
to
we
do
don't
it.
have a spot on the Teamsters for him to get our insurance.
okay, I just, and
So
I,
the MOU versus the pay specifics are not hashed out yet.
the village, and the town's getting ready to go into their budget season, their budget
Yeah.
cycle now,
Yeah.
so, all right.
So we'll get to piggyback a lot off of them training him, which is
Okay.
nice. All right, I've only got four more things, so,
Or you only
Yes.
said 3 earlier.
they've been adding up as we go. Now, George McCullough, sued the village due to, a zoning decision that he disagreed with. Jim Burrows, a lot of Jims, Jim Burrows, looked into it further, because he had to. He needed my authorization to do it, but there's no avoiding responding to a lawsuit. So he looked into the decision, agreed with George, and now George wants $2,000 to offset his legal fees to getting that decision made. I spoke with George after looking at Jim's decision. I recommended he go through the zoning board of appeals, not for a zoning appeal, but as in their role as the check on a zoning officer's decision. The first step in disagreeing with the zoning officer's decision is to appeal it through the zoning board of appeals. George then gave me a 35-minute story about each one of the zoning board of appeals members and why they did not get along and he didn't expect to get a fair shot. I explained that they're supposed to set their personal feelings aside for this, and that's why they're in that role. But he decided that it would not be worth his time and told me that he had actually already filed suit that day. So it's my opinion that he skipped a roundabout free step, which could have solved the problem, and decided to go to one that already cost us money to pay Jim Burrows to reply to the lawsuit. And so I'm inclined to say no to paying him a settlement, even though there was a mistake made on the part of our zoning officer. It was not an intentional one. Jim actually wrote out a pretty long explanation of why he thought that was the case. I read through it. I kind of thought it should not have been that, but it's not my role. And Jim Burrows also was on the fence without doing an exhaustive legal review, which we didn't think made sense to do until George submitted an actual application instead of just an inquiry. So I'm inclined to say no. Jim also was, but George had asked for a board decision on that. So I would like to recommend that we just decline to pay for his legal fees because I think it was a bit of a self-imposed decision.
He
And we
skipped the process, he skipped a step in the process, right?
which would have cost nothing.
Okay, that was a free step that he should have taken anyway.
And the zoning board of appeals would have had, 5 people would have reviewed Jim's decision, and if 3 of them said it was wrong, it would have been overturned.
I don't support paying him either. Process of place.
I'll make a motion to just give that reply to Jim as the official board decision.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I did, Sarah.
Next one's an easy one. It's just AJ was up on the roof, so we'll get another quote. I already talked about that. Second to last one is, we already informally discussed this. I don't know if we need to vote on it, but I do think it's worth bringing up. Tim Cuyor was a super on the job down at Market Square Park. It was one of the last things he did was help get that job completed. I don't know if the idea came from Mikey Van Ness, but he brought it to my attention of putting a small monument at Market Square Park for Tim. The only expense to the village would be the guys that offered to pour the concrete, is that right? And then the rest of it would be provided by his family and friends. I mentioned that, we had talked about it and we were for it, but obviously wanted just to get a visual, like a sketch of what it was gonna look like and where it would go. It would be something that they reviewed with you guys before we officially say what we are okay with.
I thought it was a brick. It sounds like a monument now.
Well, I think it was a flat stone,
Yeah.
like a, you know,
I
a
just
little-
want to know what it looks like
Let's
and
see it
where they
first.
want to put it. Yeah. Right, yeah.
but I think it's a nice gesture, and his family, and I also said we, you know, wouldn't charge them to use the space for the ceremony where they reveal the dedication stone. So Mike is working on that with the family. We might get, if you see the sketch up, just send it to us and we'll leave it to you guys to pick a good spot for it down there. Out in the way of your maintenance or, and that looks nice. And then the last one, was Jeannie Brennan. Connie and Larry Barone had a request in the memorial notice for in lieu of flowers, which I think would usually send for someone like Jeannie passing, to donate to her favorite nonprofit, which was the library. I know we already do give some money, but I think if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to add a little bit to that, what we would normally have spent on memorial flowers for the ceremony, just to make an additional donation to the memorial of the Hay Memorial Library, Jeannie Brennan's name.
Is it in the budget?
Do you have a dollar amount? What were you thinking?
Usually, I think we've done between 100, 150 and 200.
Okay.
Our gift to like as like a grievance.
Okay. You need approval for that? That's under I don't think you do.
Okay, that is all for me, guys. Sorry for the long one today.
Don't worry, I'll be short. I got one update from LDC. Eric, as you guys know, Eric Constance is now the LDC president. He took over from Mike Holgan. Eric is pushing the southern parcel on Ambrose Street project further along. We do have one developer who's actually given us a quote to do the survey and to parcel out 12 spots on the southern part. So we're going forward with the second guy to kind of come in and give us a quote for to do the exact same thing. So the LDC property southern parcel on Ambrose Street is moving along. I think we'll have a meeting probably in a month or two to get some get an update from Eric himself and see what the next steps are. So,
Great.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm excited about that.
Yep. So that is finally moving forward. Nothing from the rec committee at this time. That's all I have. Any of your questions?
Beautiful.
That was quick for you.
Oh, that's supposed to be.
You have my report. Fire department was very busy in the month of July. 20 fire calls, 4 MVAs, 32 EMS, 1 other. I don't remember what the other was, and 1 boat. The one thing that I wanted to bring up of note, just to kind of put the board on notice, that the federal OSHA has proposed significant changes to their standards regarding volunteer and professional fire departments across New York State and the country. They issued a 608-page document that they released a whole bunch of changes that would incorporate some very, very costly mandates to volunteer fire departments. If it goes through, our fire department and a lot of fire departments in our area, they're in extreme danger of being closed. They're putting a lot of requirements on them that local volunteer fire departments cannot maintain, they can't afford. They're changing things like apparatus can't be older than 15 years. So every apparatus that's in the bay, none of them are within that time frame. So we would have 1 truck that fits that age requirement. They would require tires to be replaced on vehicles every 7 years, which means every year a truck would get changed. They've increased training hours significantly. Sackets is probably one of the fewest fire departments in our area that has they have higher standards for like officers than some of our local departments do. OSHA's coming in and saying that like Derek Derwin would need to have like fire officer 3, which is how many hundreds of hours of training, and they don't even offer the training in the state of New York. So we wouldn't be able to have a fire chief that would oversee. So it's really putting some things in place that are gonna cause a lot of departments to close. Now, having said that, it has garnered some attention of politicians locally. They obviously are all very aware of what this could do and what the impact would be. But as we all know, OSHA is a federal program. We don't have a lot of control. I mean, it's not like it's voted on. So if it happens to go through, they're looking at it, it would go through beginning January 1. At this point, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I'm just kind of putting you guys on notice that come January, if OSHA submits it and it goes into place, we're insignificant. We probably won't have a fire department, and neither will the neighboring the neighboring departments will have to close too. So that could be increased on house insurance, responding to calls, a lot of things.
Yeah, the NICOM had a pretty strong letter.
They did.
fighting this.
I know
Comments
Stefanik is
closed.
against it. I know Tenny is against it. They've had a lot of the politicians, they've been going around to the departments and they've been telling how many millions of dollars it would cost them in order to do the changes. I think at the fire department meeting, they said for us to be in code right off the bat, it would be like $3 million in order to get them their equipment up, their gear up, the apparatus. Obviously, we can't fund that. The residents don't want to fund that and they can't fund that. So I don't, hopefully it doesn't happen. But with OSHA, nobody knows what, I mean, it's a federal program, so
More to follow, sounds like.
more to follow.
All right, any other questions for Kelly? Greg is not here. Sarah?
Yeah, is there a time frame, Lynn, for the completion of the Acatus inventory?
Yeah, it's October 16th, I believe it is.
Okay, so very much appreciate you guys going out with them and being there when they go door to door to the residents. I had 4 residents on Friday mention, and Friday was a weird day because of the rainstorm. I think people were surprised that anybody was out knocking on a door, but just concerned that there wasn't anything official. And so a couple different females like, well, do I let these 2 people that I don't know into my house? Is there something that we could implement or give to DPW?
Jared was riding with them on Friday. He should have had his DPW shirt on.
I think maybe raincoats were over them. As the people
Yeah, if
that
you're
I
not in the
spoke to.
vehicle, maybe they should ride in the village truck instead. They do.
Yeah, I think just the rainstorm
Yeah.
kind of threw people out
Has been
too.
out on our websites. and-
I know, and that was my response,
I
but
like where this is going. Badges, we want badges, right?
I mean, also.
But I get where she's coming from though. If you're a female, you don't want to let 2 guys in your house. I understand that
Yeah,
completely.
There
So,
are people official, doesn't mean those.
the only reason I felt comfortable is Joel was home the night they came to my house. And obviously I know Jared, but the other guy, I would have been uncomfortable. So I understand.
yeah, and I think it was like raincoats over shirts that had markings on them that would have identified them better. So I don't know if there's anything more that we can do, but I do think because 4 people in the same day
Yeah.
mentioned something to me about it, maybe just making people more comfortable
They
with
do
how
have
the
some
process.
paperwork, but we could also recommend you look up and call the village office. They can confirm that,
Yeah.
if they're nervous,
They
that
don't
might
want
be.
to, that's fine.
Well, yeah, we don't need 100% compliance either. But,
Sure, sure, but more
yeah,
is
no, we
better,
don't.
I'm sure. So just a thought, and I think Friday was an off day anyways because of the rain, but just so you know, there may be
I've seen
some
it.
concern there. Okay,
Yeah. A little nervous.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't let you in my house. I know you.
I wouldn't blame you if I looked.
Well, you're such a familiar face around the village, but I don't know that everybody else or whoever's riding along is as familiar to people, so. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Nothing else, maybe we can just get a laminated badge, just put it on, that we can wear.
That's what I was thinking, like a lanyard or something. I don't know. I don't know that,
I'll talk to Peggy tomorrow, maybe I can put that on her plate too.
I'm sure she'd appreciate that. But that's it for
You just carry that vision statement with you at all times. The big posters. All right, any other questions for Sarah, guys?
Nope.
All right. So we'll move on to correspondence. Got Bank report here, but I'm not seeing it in the print outs. It's at the bottom. 10 million through 8.9. Okay, lots of lawns being watered in June. I don't expect we'll have that problem in July. Nope.
One quick thing on the bank report, just be aware that the village, the town of Hounsfield purchases water from the village. They're not on the sewer system, so
True, yeah.
I think roughly half, give or take, the water that the village produces goes to Hounsfield.
Okay, so we're still seeing a fair amount of,
Just in terms of like I&I studies, the I&I study we're doing, like half goes away.
sure. So we're still getting more than,
Now,
okay. Yeah, 'cause that's also true with Morges, and I don't know about Bolton's. I know some of them are on septic and some are on sewer, I think.
Yeah, so just be aware that.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So 8 is not,
that report is the gross being produced and the
I gotcha. Okay.
whatever the village produces for.
So we, if there were no I&I, we should see about 50% drop,
Correct.
maybe a little more in the summer
Yeah.
while the seasonal. Okay, all right. Good to know. Thank you. All right, let's see. We have a contract for New York Parks. This is the, sorry, I've got some additional papers I didn't get through here. There's Jim. And Parks is underneath, okay. So this is the Canon, correct?
Yeah.
So we've done this before. It's essentially an agreement that we maintain and take care of the Canon. It is still technically property of Parks.
In and out front of the, this whole time was like, what is this contract? I couldn't understand.
Gotta have
What
a,
loan? What are you talking about?
how do you defend the village without a Canon?
Okay.
So I think we need a vote on this for me to sign this again. We've signed it before. There's no major change at all, right, Dave? It was just the same, yeah. So I'll make a motion to re-sign the loan and exhibition agreement amendment with State Parks.
I'll second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Hear that after, we'll put that here. All right, next up is the letter from Jim. This is generally going over KJ and Gibson's issues. You guys had a copy of it emailed to you as well. Skip over that, because we already talked about it. Next up is the LWRP amendment approval letter. Let's see.
Big deal.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave? How many pages, how many hours is that? Too many? Depressing to count? Well, we appreciate you taking care of that.
So does this mean that we are actually now candidates for certain grants from the state?
So we continue.
Continue to be,
We
okay.
had a bill. And this is actually an amendment. Right, yeah. So we continue to go. And those big grants, two of them for the sport department. The red project.
Ready project. Very good. And how long is this good for?
There's no time.
Till they ask for an updated.
Until they ask for an update,
They
yeah.
asked for another one.
Okay, good.
Well, last time it lasted, I mean, you did an amendment. There was one amendment in the 2000s, or this is the first one? Okay.
So this 1980 sometime.
That's maybe 4 years.
Good, good.
You start prepping now, Fred, or
Well, probably. Yeah, it's like,
just start again at the end? Yeah. All right, let's see. We don't have anything in old business unless anyone here has something we didn't get into. Okay. New business, we have the Porch Fest application.
Can we just vote on both of them together?
Yep. Any questions on the Porch Fest? Any changes, Dave?
No, it's basically the same. We're just asking really a bandstand.
Yeah. Are we gonna close the street there?
No, we
Just
want
leave it
to.
open. Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept both of those event applications. I don't see a problem with either one of them.
Quilt show, 4, 5, 6. The one thing, okay, just making sure the quilt show is not on the same day as
That's, I was looking.
Halloweenville, and it isn't, so great. Cool. I'll second the motion to approve both event applications. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right. Guys, anything else from the board before we move on to the last public comment section? Peggy, anything we missed? Anything you need? Peggy? All right, I will open the floor for public comment.
Hi, guys, Jay Kramer here. Just wanted to let you know that I met with Dave on the CFA grant. I'm definitely in favor of a trail system through that 37 acres. It's amazing parcel, but I am against leaving that parcel vacant and undeveloped. I feel that the LDC could get some ideas from a firm, that does design, and then see what other options there are, because it's the property itself is could be used for mixed use. I mean, there could be condos, there could be low income, which I know the village has these for low income, and the areas along the water could be developed for, high end housing and stuff. So, and I do believe that I know that I went to a public meeting in 2023, and there were just a few people there. And then meeting last year in April was canceled, and I missed I missed the May meeting. But public input to get these grants is essential part of the grant process, but the grantees, they do look at public input. So I feel that we need to get more public meetings for this project, and I know that last year you applied for the Discovery Park burn down, you got a CFA grant, so everything, things work. But public meetings are very important to this, and I just want to let you know that I think that should, the village should look up, the LDC should look at other options other than leaving this area vacant and undeveloped forever.
Thanks,
And just one other thing, the Stone Hospital, just wanted to say, all the neighbors seem to be compliant with the landscape law. That there's a lot of that area that for the last 10 years hasn't been done. I don't know. I know that if it's transferred, that it'll obviously will be cleaned up. And I didn't know if there's any other information on if their transfer is near happening.
Don't have any info for you on that. It's not something that we oversee.
Yeah, well, I hope it happens soon, because that one wing is getting worse and worse every year, and it's I see it every year when I come back. There's more stone that's crumbled out of that one area. The other wing overnight. I was there.
Time, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Just start the timer.
All right, starting it.
Cheers.
All right.
John Constance, otherwise known as KD 212, Sunnyside Drive. I want to thank the board for finally taking an active interest in restoring hope in our zoning laws by holding those that don't do what they're supposed to do feet to the fire, including your friend. Not only, I was gonna talk about the historic and other stuff I did a year ago, but one thing we didn't talk about, and I think you should put it in your duties there, is the health benefit of cleaning that up. You can't tell me that there isn't rodents. We've got all sorts of crap going on over there, animals coming and going. There's rabies problems, there's all this stuff. This happened to us years ago, similar area. We had a health officer. I don't know if they have a health officer anymore. I think we're required to have one on a yearly basis. Used to pay so much for it. Right?
It's through the town.
It's okay. Well, you have to bring him in, and he has to say, "Whoa, there's a problem here," and that might help you, get this cleaned up. But I appreciate you finding making people follow the zoning laws. Thank you.
Should be.
You still have time left.
He said.
Still have time left.
I'll borrow his time. You know, I can my own affairs.
Anybody else? All right, anybody on Zoom? Last chance to unmute, chime in. All right. I'll close public comment. Anything last before we make a motion to adjourn?
Do the honors.
No, but Brendan, before you go, I want to talk about something. Market Square Park Phase 2. I don't have anything else. I make a motion for us to adjourn the meeting.
I will second that.
On favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Pleasure.
Jay, all right.
Yeah. Hey, you said Eric, the new president?
Eric is.